Okay.
Yeah, so backwards.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'd like to get the meeting started. First of all, to note that we are conducting business in Tishat and Fukachesapeake First Nation territories. Then notice to the attendees and delegates that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. And introductions. Can you start there, Heather?
Yep. Hi, I'm Heather Zenner, Manager of Administrative Services.
Mike Sparrow, Area Director, Cherry Creek.
Good morning, I'm Alex Dyer, Planning Manager at the ACRD.
And I'm Mike Erg, General Manager of Planning and Development of the Regional District.
Jack McClellan, Alternate Director for Beaufort.
And I'm Terry Fong. I'm Chief Financial Officer and today Acting Chief Administrative Officer.
Okay, now we're at the minutes and can I get a motion to approve the minutes held on the meeting on May 18th, 2022 or any business arising out of the minute? And the seconder? Thank you. Okay, request for decision. Mike.
Oh, sorry, just a point of order. We need
sure.
to adopt the agenda.
Oh, I think I missed something here. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you. A seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Now the minutes. Is that okay that we're out of order?
It's okay, you've already done that.
Okay. Okay. Now the accessory dwelling unit minimum lot size. Mike, would you like to speak about this?
Yes, I'll speak to this one, and then when we get to the next report, Alex is going to speak to it. And there may be some more discussion around the ADU component because the two reports really tied together. This based on what staff are recommending is that the review of the minimum lot sizes for accessory dwelling units be incorporated into the review of the OCPs. And the reason for that being is that the current regulations for accessory dwelling units are built into each of the 6 electoral area official community plans. And the way it's written in the zoning bylaw as well, accessory dwelling units are only permitted in the OCP areas. And again, those OCP areas represent, the settled areas of the regional district. And so to go back to, I guess, a little bit of background, in 2015, the regional district adopted accessory dwelling unit regulations, and those regulations varied amongst the rural areas. So Long Beach, based on their official community plan, had basically more restrictive regulations around accessory dwelling units for lot size specifically, and some of the area. So in earlier this year, those changes were made. It did two things. It brought the official community plans were all amended where they needed to be, and then basically the ADU regulations were harmonized so that they were consistent across the regional district. So there's still a 1 acre minimum parcel size. And when that was brought in, that was related to septic, and it was something new. There were certainly, I think, some concerns about how it was going to work when we brought those regulations in 8 years ago. Certainly from my perspective, they have been successful. And then in 2023, the expansion of the ADUs did really 3 main things. It allowed 1 acre minimum parcel sizes in the Long Beach electoral area. It expanded the floor area from 80 meters to 90 meters, and then from 70 meters to 90 meters in Long Beach. And so that gives a maximum floor area of 968 square feet. And in effect, that allowed an extra bedroom to be built in accessory dwelling units. We had a lot of people waiting for that change because we've talked about it for a long time. And as soon as that change was taken, we've had more uptake around that. And the last change was around when it's an in-law. I won't say it's an in-law suite, but when the ADU is part of the home, the previous regulations had set a maximum of 80 square meters, or 850, approximately 850 square feet, or 40% of the total floor area of a house. And so that 40%, that requirement that it could only be 40% of the floor area of a home was reduced. So, for example, if somebody had a 1,000 square foot house, they could only have a 400 square foot accessory dwelling unit. Really, that didn't make sense. If somebody has a 1,000 square foot home under the rules now, they can have a 968 square foot accessory dwelling unit. And just given where we are with housing, that's been a good improvement. So just a bit of background. We've got some time here this morning. I thought I'd just go through all of that because a lot of the directors weren't on the board at the time when the regulations were first brought in. So we've had a number of requests over the years to look at options for reducing the accessory dwelling units minimum lot area specifically. So sometimes it's people have instead of 1 acre they have 0.95 acre, and the way zoning works is it's a hard line. There's no flexibility to change that, and there's no ability to vary that because it's density, and so where we can vary setbacks and heights, etc. We can't vary something to either allow it on a smaller lot size or vary it to allow, say, a bigger footprint or square footage area. One of the key things in the regional district is currently we do not have sewer systems in any areas. We have a number of water systems, and then in area like around Sprout Lake, they don't have a community water system. A lot of developments have access to the lake as a water system, and so that is covered off. But also wanting to make sure that the septic is covered off as we look at this. And I think there will be opportunities to look at smaller lot areas, provided that there's septic, so that there'll still be some technical requirements around that. But there's also some opportunities to, through our community plan updates and reviews, to look at some other options for smaller lots specifically, where maybe that's a total lot coverage. And I'm just throwing out examples. We would want to go through sort of a much more detailed review and analysis. But examples around limiting the number of bedrooms on lots, say between 0.6 of an acre and 1 acre, limiting the square footage based on the zoning that is there, and then always having that confirmation that they can meet the sewerage regulations. So we're not, we don't want to inadvertently create hazards by allowing too much on a property. And I think it also warrants some discussion with the communities, like each of the residents and property owners in each of the electoral areas on what exactly they would like to see. Because then, for example, most of the lots, there are some lots that are less than 0.6 of an acre, but I would say the vast majority of lots sort of fall within that. So it would really increase the opportunities for ADUs, but also wanting to have some feedback. What is the impact on that? And with the goal of accessory dwelling units or ADUs being to provide permanent housing, we certainly are still constantly dealing with the short-term vacation rental components, and how that impacts, and some of the challenges around managing and enforcing that. So that's sort of the background, and the recommendation here is that this be part of the OCP reviews that we're undertaking, starting in 2 weeks. It's sort of the initial kickoff. So I will stop there and then answer questions, and hopefully there's some discussion and debate around this.
Okay, Mike?
Thank you for that. I just came back from BCM, and they were discussing the same sort of thing, accessory dwelling building. And they brought the same part UDOT. You have a 1,000 square foot building, and then you're only allowed to build a 900 square foot addition. But if you had a 6,000 square foot building, you still have the option. So some of the things they were looking towards was the amount of bedrooms, the amount of bathrooms, and the load that puts on the sewer system as a defining way of seeing what they can build on the site as opposed to a floor plan area. Because, you know, 1,000 square foot building was a 6,000 square foot building, big difference, and you're still stuck with the same parameters of what you can build an accessory building. So they were looking at that format as a load area on the square footage of the lot as opposed to just this accessory dwelling building. So I'm glad we're getting the OCPs out there. I went to the UBCM to get these ideas. So there are other options out there so we can increase housing because that is going to come up more severely in the future. So you're right. I think we should look at other options as well. This is a good stopgap measure, but maybe we'll look at other options in the future to try density in the areas. Thank you.
Great, because this was specifically, we're supposed to bring back the ADUs, but it is a general discussion on housing, and I would, from planning perspective, yes, I think that's a great option to look at. You know, how do we look at infill utilizing existing properties? You know, what would be appropriate, and I think that's a good discussion to have with all of the communities because sometimes it's a challenge getting specific applications through. Where they've looked at things like that, but just in general, what's appropriate, density being the number of dwellings. So yeah, absolutely, we want to encourage that, and I'm glad that you brought that up here. Sarah.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. So this has been on my radar for quite a while. With people coming, asking to be able to have accommodation for family on property, building a small accessory dwelling unit. And so in this, I do agree that we need to take it to the public for consultation, but in here, it also points out that accessory dwelling units construction guidelines, and I'm wondering about buildings over garages. So how would that work? Because what we're really trying to do also is legalize a lot of builds that are out there already that haven't been approved, that are illegal suites or whatever. And I'm thinking that we need to be able to have a process, and there was some information in here as to how to deal with that. But there's a lot of those type of accommodations out there. UBCM is pushing, the province is pushing for more housing overall, all over BC in every manner. So like the way that we're going at this. I appreciate the gathering community input and including that into the OCP process. So I know that recreational areas like my own and probably Banfield could definitely be looking for extra accommodation, legal extra accommodation when it goes forward. Oh, that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just was going to touch on above garage dwelling. So that's permitted currently. So if somebody has a garage, they can build an ADU above the garage, or even if it's a standalone garage. And we've seen a number of those as well. So an accessory dwelling unit really does cover up sort of a cottage or carriage home that's standalone by itself, something that's above a garage, or something that is either part of the home or attached to the primary home. So that meets the current definitions and we've seen all of those. And I think different types of these ADUs meet different needs, right? So an above garage is less accessible for people. So it's different. Different types of people would be renting. Even if we just think about family, for example, and sort of that multi-generational needs. So but those options are all there.
Thanks, Director Beckett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, I really appreciate you bringing this forward, creating the opportunity for community engagement. As the two previous directors have talked about, lots of discussions at UBCM on, moving initiatives like this forward. The issue of cost still, remains a concern to everyone. Cost of construction is not cheap, and for someone to build, a standalone, 900 square foot, lovely building on their property, is still going to cost a fair amount of money. Which brings me to the question: is there going to be? Would they be required to have a separate septic system, or could they connect to the existing septic system or other approved wastewater disposal? And the second part of that question is the same thing with water. Would they have to have a separate water hookup with their own meter? Because both those items could add considerable cost to the overall project. Thank you.
I'll answer a couple of questions, and I'm going to pass it over to Alex because he's a little bit more familiar with how it works with our water systems and the way the bylaws are written. So for septic, it can be connected to the existing septic. So when the building permit's taken out, or we need confirmation that they can manage the septic field. So it really depends on things like the age of the septic field, and recognizing this is outside the scope of what regional districts do. But when we're looking at approving these, they need to provide a confirmation from a wastewater practitioner that either there's going to be a new septic field or that the current septic field is adequate to meet the additional wastewater, or some addition or modifications need to be made to it. So that is something. With respect to the cost, because it is, costs of building are significant. We have had some initial discussions, and I think part of this discussion and housing in general is working with local contractors and looking, and again, this is like just, these are more thoughts and discussion at this stage. We don't have anything firmed up, but options for either modular homes that are more cost effective, that can be approved. And as we get into the really technical details around that, we need to look at some of the height requirements. So do we need to allow them to be a little bit higher so that the roof structure can be constructed in a way that it reduces the cost? So I'm thinking of just a cantilevered house versus a truss system. And then also maybe, looking at some pre-approved design or pre-approved plans that can be approved quicker, because it's just sort of we've looked at these plans for, say, an ADU, for a 960 square foot ADU, having some pre-approved design plans that people can just put off the shelf and go and build. So those are two things that we want to look at, specifically to ADUs and the affordability part. And then I'm going to let Alex answer that question.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. And Mike, just to speak to the water, the water operators have been requiring separate meters for secondary dwellings or accessory dwelling units. And I'll also highlight that the development cost charges apply for a new secondary dwelling as well. So that does add to the cost. I mean, it's over $8,000 for the DCC in Banfield now, and I think it's $5,800 in Beaver Creek. That has to do with the load and the strain on the water system. But if there are ways that we can look at our bylaws again to look at even sharing meters or sharing connections, if there's an opportunity to look at the cost there, then I think it's appropriate that we look at that through the water committees and the community services departments. And then just to reiterate what Mike was saying, I think we have the ability to look at streamlining some of our processes to respond to the cost of construction. I mean, there is an inherent cost with getting approvals to build. And if there's ways that we can look at our process, but also look at, the types of buildings that we can pre-approve and the modular and the mobile home. I think that's worthwhile to look at as a separate process for sure.
Okay, thank you. Alternate Director Jack McClellan.
Thank you. I just been reading over this and listening. Is this something that should be under the OCPs in each area, or is this something that is looking to standardize it around the regional district? I can see great in considering what I've been hearing around the district, if that's what we're trying to do. So I just question, I guess, if this is under the OCPs, we can talk about it at the next subject. Otherwise, I think it should definitely be something that is discussed with the people in the areas. Extra height on a building, my golly, you hear all that complaining all the time, and some people want more, some people want less. So it's not an easy fix, but it's a good thing to have in some areas. But I'm just thinking of a lot of the properties out in our district. I don't think they're big enough to have an extra dwelling, and others could have 2 or 3. So I'm not sure how you're going to. Just reading it, I don't quite see all the differences in here. So that's just the question.
Oh, and I think that's a great comment, because you're right, because different people have, like members of the public, neighbors, different people have different views on what should happen. And really that's part of the challenge in dealing with housing, throughout BC. And it's kind of how we got here in some ways, in that, people think we need to build housing, but not necessarily next to me. So that's the challenge. So it's finding that balance on what works. To go back to, yes, it is built into each OCP, and it is possible to build, different regulations for different areas. So for example, if Beaufort, which has much bigger, generally much bigger properties, could have bigger setbacks, for example, or they could require bigger properties than other areas. So, I'll go back to when we brought this in. There was a lot of consensus that it be the same or similar in all the electoral areas, and that 1 acre was the minimum. But now there is other, we have a lot of people looking at, what about those properties between 0.6 and 1, and generally those properties, are not area specific, but they're site specific. So there's lots in Beaver Creek, lots in Cherry Creek, lots in Sprout Lake, and Banfield as well. But some in Long Beach, and very minimal in the Beaufort area. Right. So, even if we change the regulations to make it 0.6, I'm hard pressed to think of a property, say, that it would even apply to in Beaufort. There's probably some, but there's not very many. But so, I think that's why it's important to have it as part of the OCP discussion, because, the end result may be that, as directors in the board, you want to have slightly different rules in different areas.
Thank you. Director Cote.
Thank you. Just want to talk about the septics. I recently looked into it, and septics are connected to bedrooms, not bathrooms, which I found quite interesting. So I believe that the magic number is when you go from 4 to 5, you have to have a larger septic field. So that would be the cost, and that would be one of the issues regarding the building of a accessory dwelling unit that could hook up to your existing septic. I know that there is properties that have these accessory dwellings already. I couldn't tell you how many bedrooms, but there's probably a lot of bathrooms. So I don't know if that needs to be looked at when we start discussing what these things could look like, or give that information to the public also. so that they can understand exactly what could be built or what we're talking about, because it isn't apples and apples. Thanks.
Thanks. I have a question. It says in the guidelines that an accessory dwelling unit may only be 1 story. Like I think in my area, 2 stories would work. And as long as it complemented the front building and I think, or the main house. I've seen in other jurisdictions where they do have that, as long as they match. Or you could have a lower one. Plus it would lower the cost of building to have 2 stories. And also in my area, I hear people with the 0.06 acres to 1 acre that are expressing that they'd like to do something like this.
No, that's great. And those are the kinds of things we can explore. Again, I think part of this was when we brought it in is like, let's see how it works. And we didn't want to go, it's easier to expand and allow it more than to bring it back and sort of, in effect, take away people's rights to do stuff. If we found 1 acre had to be right. Certainly, I would agree. There's a lot of benefits to allowing the square footage in 2 stories. It's a reduced footprint, it's a reduced building cost. So those are all the kinds of things we can, not just we want to look at. So,
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, could I get a motion to receive the information? Thank you, Veda, and seconded by Mike Sparrow. Thank you. Okay, now we move to Alex.
Sorry, I have one last question.
Sorry, go ahead there.
Thank you. So just asking staff, when will this be brought forward with the upcoming meetings or when would a timeline be for bringing this forward? Because OCPs in my history have taken years. Thanks.
Yes, you're right. And it will be part of the OCP review process. It has to be because it's built into the OCP, so we can't sound contrary. But we will, this is going to be part of the discussion. It's starting October 10th. So.
Thank you. Okay, Alex, Community Fund Engagement Program.
Thank you, Director Roth. So on that, the report that we have in the agenda for you provides an overview on the community planning engagement that will take place over the fall here, beginning in the next 2 weeks. As Mike said, there are open houses with facilitated discussions planned for each electoral area over October and November, as well as an online survey and social media engagement included within that. So the public engagement intends to lay the groundwork, as we've said, for identifying those community values and establishing community visions for upcoming comprehensive OCP update projects. The goal is to create opportunities for dialogue with the public. We want to better, understand the needs of the communities. We want to identify the challenges and opportunities and rebuild that trust in the community planning process is the goal. There will also be an opportunity to have community dialogue on the most recent August update of the draft updated zoning bylaw, and to also discuss the development of individual electoral area zoning bylaws as additional engagement on that was directed by the board in July. So at the open houses, the workshops will be led by staff and will include tabletop discussions on key topics where attendees can rotate around to different tables to provide their input. Now, the 5 key discussion topics are included in the report there for you. It includes zoning bylaws and OCPs, recreational vehicles, accessory dwelling units and housing, docks where applicable, parking where applicable, home-based businesses, which will include home occupations and home industries, and agriculture and animals. Staff will facilitate those public discussions, and we certainly encourage the area directors to attend any and all open houses if you are available. The questions that we have drafted for the discussion tables were emailed out to you for input yesterday, and we're looking to finalize those questions to be included in the online survey, which will launch by the end of next week. The report also goes on to introduce the projects to update the 6 electoral area OCPs. As we know, and we talked about at length, I think the area OCPs are fairly outdated, with adoption dates ranging from 2007 for the South Long Beach OCP and 2014 for the most recent OCPs in the Valley and in Banfield. So the need to have community dialogue around updating these community visions and goals and objectives and all that in each area has really been highlighted by some of the engagement and conversations, I guess, we've been having around the zoning bylaw review project. So the intention of this community engagement work that will take place over the next month is to provide the framework for updating those OCPs and really the beginning of that project. We'll highlight the ACRD has also received a $150,000 grant from UBCM to start this work, and the board has also dedicated community works funds to move forward with these projects. So staff anticipate that work will begin in 2024. And then finally, I'll just highlight that next steps following the open houses and the engagement activities that we had planned for the fall will involve a report back to the board in late November, where staff will summarize the input that we've received and present options for community planning work to take place in 2024, as I mentioned. So I think I'll leave it at that, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Director McLennan.
Yeah, thank you. First off, I do have a note here from the regular director, Director Boyko, and I don't have any knowledge of this, but he comments that at a recent Sprout Lake and Cherry Creek public hearing were very animated, and he thinks the new rules should be brought into attempt to help this and give people more opportunity to have their talk. So I don't know too much about what happened there, but I do know I've been listening to what you've been saying here so far and reading what I can on the agenda. And it looks to me, maybe I'm wrong, is that the format for these meetings is going to be people sitting around and someone's going to have a kindergarten chart over here and writing things down. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Because it don't work. I've been at a lot of these. And people just go away and they say nothing. They go away and they get mad, and then they're mad for a long time because they don't think they were heard. So how are you going to make it so the people, the population, the people who are paying taxes here are heard?
Alex?
I appreciate that comment. And you know, that's something we've been struggling with for a long time, I think. And so the format that we have laid out for these open houses, they're open from 4 to 7. But at 5:30, we'll have these facilitated discussion tables that begin, and that's the opportunity for people to give their input. The questions that we're intending to ask are broad and open-ended, and they're really about community values, what you want to see in your community, what's working right now, what's not working right now, what do you want to like, how do you want your community to be today, how do you want it to be in 10 years and then in 20 years. So it's the focus isn't on we've drafted these rules, do you agree or not? The focus is on you tell us what you want to see in your community, and you know that will be a challenge for us to really take it all in, summarize it, and analyze it appropriately, I guess, for the board to consider. But what we've heard through the most recent engagements, as you say, they were animated, and a lot of people are feeling that these rules were developed without their input, or they were not heard, and at some point in the process, we've really wanted to take a number of steps back and just allow the public to tell us exactly what they want to see, and we can lay out what the OCP does and intends to do, what the zoning bylaw does and intends to do, and then we can provide that technical background. But I think what people need is they need the space and the opportunity to tell us what they want, and we're hoping that the way we've designed these open houses, that will provide that space.
Thank you, Jack.
Just further to that, then, is the director going to be intimately and integrally involved in these discussions at the tables? To me, that's what's going to make or break it. And if their directors get there and do their thing as directed and that they're elected to do, they can make it or break what happens there.
No, we definitely want the area directors to be involved and to attend and to listen and be available. We anticipate that the tables will be facilitated by staff, and that's an opportunity for us to just collect the information, move the discussion along with the questions that we've drafted, and then and then have everybody participate. But the design would be that staff would lead that, and that we, as I mentioned, we definitely want the directors to be as involved as possible in these events.
Go ahead there.
Thanks. I just want to add, so this is public engagement versus what we were talking about is a couple of public hearings. And public hearings are legislated, and there's a lot of rules and a lot of case law that says we must do things a certain way, as opposed to community engagement is what happens before, before we design anything. And the goal is, really for us to all go and listen. So there's some key things we've heard over the last year that people have concerns about. Some of it relates to zoning, some of it relates to OCPs, and there's obviously OCPs and zoning are intricate and tied together. We cannot zone against the OCP, but the OCP is a broader plan, policies that say, what do you want in your community? That's a lot of the discussion is what do people want? Even if it's we want more animals. Okay, how do we want more chickens on our property, or we want chickens on smaller properties? We can build that into the OCPs. And I would hope that as I would encourage the directors to come and to listen to what the residents and constituents have to say. We certainly and you can have the dialogue and the back and forth that you can't have in a public hearing. So people can ask questions. They can tell us they don't like or like certain things. They can say they're concerned about whatever it is. We're going to hear about docks, about parking, about keeping of animals, and then we can take all of that information, and then the directors are going to be there and hear it as well, and bring it back to the board and set sort of what the next steps are. And at the end of November, those next steps are going to be, are we proceeding with OCPs, and what do we do with the zoning bylaw? That's really the key. But that decision can be based on what the public says. And the goal of this format is to provide as many ways and as many opportunities for members of the public to participate. So, somebody driving by shows up at 4:00, we're going to be there. I'm sure the directors will be there. For those people that come through, we will be able to answer their questions. The questions that we're going to have at the table that we sent around earlier will be up on the wall. As we're planning this, Alex and I won't be at the tables. We're going to be available to answer people's questions. So if people don't want to at 5:30 participate in table discussions, they can go around and talk to Alex and I. We can individually go through people's questions. The directors, will be there to hear that as well. As directors, if you want to, sit at the tables and hear what people have to say, there's going to be a lot of freedom to do that. And there's a lot of freedom for all of us to answer questions, which would be the goal. And some of the things we're going to hear, maybe, there's too many regulations. Okay, that's a fair comment. So, what are your thoughts? What should we and shouldn't we do? And really, this is phase one of probably a 5-stage process. This is just, we've talked for a long time about doing the OCPs, and this is the start. But it's like this for each area and for everybody that comes. What do you want to see in your community? And then we can bring that back, and we can we will have advisory planning commission meetings. We can do some drafts, but before we get too far along, we're going to have to put something together. The board's going to make some decisions on what we're doing. And then we're going back to the community. This is the community planning is for communities. It's not for us. We do the job, we write it, but the plan is for communities. That's the goal. And the format's really about providing as much opportunity for as many people as possible. So there's online surveys. Staff are available in the office through this whole process for people to come in. If somebody can't make the Cherry Creek one and they want to come to the Sproat Lake one, that's okay. I mean, we're going to have Sproat Lake specific information at the Sproat Lake open house, but we will, if somebody wants to talk about Cherry Creek Beaufort, that's okay. We can do that. So just wanted to highlight sort of the goals and specifically how we're going to do it. And we have done open houses in the past. And I found them successful and we're able to, have those individual conversations. And for other projects, we have done this, the table discussions where you can have a group of people interested in a specific topic. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. Mike, you said pretty much all I was going to say. Just that I've been telling people about these meetings coming up and saying that this is your opportunity to talk about whatever. This is the public consultation portion, and I've also directed them to contact staff if they can't make any of these meetings or if that's their preference. So I think there was some confusion with what Director Boyko was relaying through Jack. This is not a public hearing. This is not really a public meeting that is open to the directors taking the lead, whatever. This is a well-orchestrated, well-described public consultation that staff will be there. And I think they do an excellent job when they've done this in the past. So I look forward to it. I think one of the key things is advertisement that we need to publicize, because public meetings in the past haven't been well attended because people didn't know about it. So whatever way directors like to get their information out, if you use social media and people follow that, then that's the way you should assist to get that message out. That's I think that we're doing the right way, and thank you to staff for bringing this forward like they're doing. I think that it gives everybody that opportunity to speak about what they want to with the OCPs and the zoning bylaws, which have been going on forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Sega?
Thank you. Yeah. In my experience, if we have people prepared for the meetings with the questions, it really helps. But to focus them, like maybe ask for 2 specific concerns for each question area, and then 2 specific suggestions to address those concerns. And then when they come together, just have them, like at 5:30, go into groups and sort of highlight if there are commonalities within that group. And then it's really easy to collate the concerns and afterward.
Thank you. I do have one question. Oh, sorry. I'm just thinking, like myself, I'm the director for Beaver Creek. I'm the voice of the people. And the time, 4 to 7, I mean, I get home from work at 6. I'll be there, of course, but there'll be lots of people that will have very limited time. So can I not be the voice of the people? And if people can't make it, could I not provide that information to you?
Yes, absolutely. And we encourage that. We have if they want to speak to staff directly, we're available, in person, by phone, and we have a community planning email as well. That's included in the package there. But if they're more comfortable speaking with you and you'd like to relay that to us, we're happy to do that as well.
Thank you. Sorry.
And just on that note, so I just want to touch on again on public hearing versus public engagement. So when we do public hearings, we have all these rules around new information for directors, and it's built on case law, right? None of that applies. So if residents are talking to you and you want to share that with us, and they're more comfortable talking to you as directors, like all that's okay. This is about getting information and hearing what the public has to say and how they want their community built and shaped and to look at it. And we don't want, at this stage, we don't want to be coming and saying, like, there's things we have to do in OCPs, and we will do that and bring that information and have that discussion more with the board. But at this stage, this is just about what do people want to see, and then we take and we'll bring it back and we'll talk about the tools and the legislation that we have to follow and sort of and build that for each area. So I just want to make sure that everybody's, understanding that. And then after Director Sparrow speaks, I'll just get Alex just to talk about sort of the notices when they're going out, social media posts, so that you're able to see them, share them. The questions that went out yesterday were just, we want to make sure we're asking the questions that you as directors want us to be asking, and that we haven't missed anything. So, that's the goal. There's more information coming, and we'll be getting information out, and some of it will be on digital and social media format that you can share. So,
Thank you.
thanks for
Director Sparrow?
Thank you. So the original one was about public hearing versus public engagement. And as far as public hearing goes, yes, the format is somewhat construed now what it used to be. At the UBCM, there was the ombudsperson talking about that, and they're looking at ways of doing the public hearing that is more has changed from what it used to be, because they realize it's not working as well. So in the new year, they said in spring, summertime, you'll get new ideas of what public hearings they're looking forward to try and get rid of the unidirectional flow of going to public hearings. So there is that. And as far as the public consultation, hopefully it'll be what we're talking about. I know what it usually is the table set out, and you can move from table to table depending on subject matter. So you have a chance to talk to people in small groups, which is really helpful. And you can go over certain subject matters, and I will try to broadcast what the matter does as I can, so people have an understanding. We can talk before they walk in the rooms, and I will be there to listen to all the concerns they have too. So hopefully this does work out well. I know since May, Cherry Creek has not been overly pleasant about the OCP format, so hopefully we can decide what they would like to do, and they can move forward, and we can actually get the bylaws and OCP defined as they'd like to see it. So hopefully it'll be fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Just to speak to the advertising, we've had a number of questions about that. So we do have bulk mailouts that are going to each of the areas ahead of the meetings, the open houses. The first ones being Cherry Creek and Beaufort, and so those mailouts are going this week. We have sandwich boards that we're working on right now that are also going out this week. The Let's Connect page will be live later today, and on that we'll be including the main discussion points and what the discussion tables will look like, so people will have an idea of the themes and the topics that will be included. The online survey we anticipate will go live by the end of next week, and then the questions will be out there, and people will have an opportunity to read them ahead of time if that helps them, or begin submitting a survey if they would like to do that ahead of attending their open houses, or in lieu of attending if they're not available. We are going to have ads in the newspaper as well. We'll be promoting it on social media and on our website, and definitely encourage any of the directors, if you have your own channels, to encourage people to attend. I would encourage that we want as many people to show up to these things as possible, and that'll help the discussion, but also lets us hear the broad range of perspectives that I think we want to hear.
Thank you. Director Cote?
Thank you. I would encourage people to attend these. There's a lot of dates there that give different options for people to be able to attend. I have concern about people just giving me questions to bring forward when they don't actually come and get the advantage of actually taking a look at what's being presented by the staff, and it may queue up their questions that they have or answer questions. The information that staff provide is really informative, and I would really encourage that if people could attend in person, that's what they do rather than going through me or any of the other directors. Thanks.
Okay. Any other? Director Sparrow?
Two quick questions. You guys have a newsletter. Is it going to go out as a political broadcast or as a newsletter? The reason I ask that is because if you put it as a newsletter, people have that little "don't put flyers in my locker" kind of idea. They won't get it. The political broadcast will go through this political. So, and second thing, discuss radio at all, try and get something on the radio as another way of doing it? Because I'm trying to find any way I can get people to listen.
Yeah, for sure. So our communications coordinator has put ads on the radio before, and we can ask her about that and whether that would be something that we should be looking at and what the reach of that is. In terms of the bulk mailouts, we've historically done the newsletter bulk mailout, and I think what we heard the last time we did this in spring 2022 is that the people that have that do not receive a flyer notice. We're not receiving them. So I will ask our staff to look into that when we set that up with Canada Post. See if there's anything we can do.
And also, I was just gonna add, like the sandwich boards, they're very low tech, but they're also, been effective, and we're going to have 2 in each electoral area, sort of ahead of the meeting, just to notify people, and I think the social media. So this is something as the planning department, we've done this engagement part. We haven't utilized social media before, and we'll be doing that, and we'll also look at the radios. It's a challenge because doing direct mail to every household we don't have enough staff to actually stuff the envelopes right now, and it's tough, right? And it's a little bit different in Banfield and Long Beach, with direct mail. But just trying, we're trying to hit as much as we can. We will absolutely.
Yeah, I just recently posted online about this issue, or a little bit about it anyways, and when I looked at the insight, there was over 1,600 people that clicked on it and read it. So it does have a good reach. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we can move on. Or do we need, I guess we need a motion to receive the report. Mike, and we have a seconder? And Jack. Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry.
Just a question. Where does this go now? I mean, I believe by taking accepting the report, we're accepting this schedule of OCP dates and places. So what do? We take this to the next meeting, or is that enough to have this?
Yeah, so that schedule, unless directed to do something, it's set. So everybody's, we've reached out to each of the area directors, and they're available and okay with those dates. The next step after the open houses and the online survey will be that a report will be put together to come back to the board in late November, early December on next steps, because part of this came out as a result of so the zoning bylaw project was paused. The Cherry Creek OCP, the amendments that were proposed were paused, and wanted to, the board directed us, but we all agreed that at that stage we needed to go back and have more discussion and engagement with the communities. And based on the feedback we got, staff will put some recommendations together, and the board's going to decide on what steps, and those steps will be, do we do zoning bylaw first, OCPs first? Which OCP comes first, and how we do that, and is it one zoning bylaw or more? It's sort of that's all of the different things we're going to look at, and the board will make a decision on. So that will be the next steps, and all of that stuff's going to happen. As directors, you will decide how that's going to happen, and what comes first. But we'll carry on with the engagement. So, one of the things, as if I would encourage directors to say, this is the very first step in a multi-phased project, and we this isn't, we're doing the consultation, we're going to write the plan, and then hold the public hearing. This is we're going to get public feedback, sort of put the parameters of the plans together, and then come back to each area. And I think that one of the good things is we're able to get back out into each individual electoral area. That was another thing I'm sure we've all that is important for people. So hopefully that answers your question, Director.
Thank you. Okay, now we have Mike Sparrow made the motion. Do we have a seconder? Okay. Oh, thanks, Jack. I didn't realize that. Oh, okay. Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Now we're moving on to reports. Any reports? None on the agenda. Late business? Any late business? None on the agenda. Question period. Is there anything from the public?
So there's no questions received from the public.
Okay, so a motion to adjourn? And seconded. And do we vote all in favor, or is that something that's just a given?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll declare it. Well, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
See you later.